If you're tired of the same old boring lessons and want to get your students excited about learning, then you need to pay attention. We're going to dive deep into the world of cultural immersion and explore 5 game-changing strategies that will transform the way you teach. My name is Scott, and you're watching Immediate Immersion, where we're all about comprehension-based instruction in the modern language classroom. We'll be right back. First up, let's talk about food. What kid doesn't like food? Here are 3 ideas that you can bring food into your classroom. The first is bring in authentic dishes from the target culture and have a feast. I know one of my students a few years ago brought in a rosca de reyes cake, and we used that in our class. During the season, we talked about it. We talked about the importance of it. We ate it. We had a little faux pas in there. I warned the kids about the baby Jesus inside a piece, and a kid still just shoved it right in his mouth without checking, and he started to swallow that baby Jesus, and he coughed it right back out. So it can be fun, it can be energetic, it can be a great way to bring in culture into your classroom by bringing in authentic dishes and having a talk about them, why they're significant, and enjoying them together as a class. Another great idea is to get students to research recipes, prepare meals, and present them to the class. So instead of you going out and getting authentic dishes from, a local store or restaurant, you can have students research the recipes and find them online, prepare them at home, and then bring them back to the classroom enough to share with everybody. This way they get to experience how they're made and be really immersed in the idea of the food. And lastly, another great idea is to discuss the cultural significance behind each dish and the role of food in society. We don't realize how much importance we place on meals and food, whether it be the time that we eat the food, whether it be the people we eat the food with, if it's celebrating a particular holiday or special occasion, and the types of foods that we eat. I mean, think about American Thanksgiving. Without turkey is kind of weird. People usually eat ham for Easter or also for Christmas time. Pumpkins are really important during the Halloween, the fall season. So we have a lot of these foods that are associated with specific significances, and students can explore these about the target language, culture, and food that you're talking about. So find a way, bring food into the classroom. Your kids will love it, and it's a great way to bring culture into the classroom. Next on our list is music and movies. You can introduce your students to popular music, films, and art from the target culture. We are in a world of multimedia, easily accessible on our fingertips through the internet. So you can go and do research and get your popular music from the target culture you're teaching, any films or short videos, and even art from the target culture. Expose your students to this. Talk about it in a comprehensible way. You can take art and teach it in level 1. You just ratchet down the language and ratchet down the vocabulary so that it's comprehensible for the students. But you can do it. You can bring in popular music and short videos or memes in there. Kids will enjoy that. You can talk about it. You can discuss it. You can ask scaffolded, differentiated questions to really expose the kids to the popular music, films, short videos, comics, memes, and art from the target culture. Another great idea is to analyze lyrics, themes, and techniques to deepen the understanding. So take music and look at the themes and the lyrics. What is it actually saying? You need to teach students that music is actually modern day poetry, and you can analyze it such. Or take art. What's the theme here? Why did the artist choose to portray what it portrayed in this way rather than that way? Are there moods or series of types of art that this artist has created, and create little themes about that? So you can, again, whatever level, you can bring this stuff into the lower levels. You think that it can only be taught to your upper levels, and that's where we're targeting advanced techniques here. But you can also ratchet it down for your lower levels so they get some art and music as well. Talk about it, ask your scaffolded questions about it, get their experiences, have them compare it with things that they know, music that they listen to, art that they know. And that will be a great way to bring this aspect of culture into the classroom. And lastly, encourage students to create their own content inspired by the target culture. So, one of the great things I know in like Colombia, there's a big art culture of like graffiti art, wall art, mural art out on the city streets. So lots of kids like to do that graffiti type art. So why not have them do it in the style that you see in Colombia or whatever culture you're studying? Or if you're studying Picasso or Van Gogh, look at some of their paintings, some of their creations, and have some students do some things in those ways as well. If your kids are not very artistic, you might find some line art that they can color in the specific way of or inspired by the way in the target culture. But it's another way to bring creativity, bring culture, and bring the target language all together in the classroom. Virtual field trips are one of my favorite activities. I learned how to do this in a class I was taking with Fluency Fast in French, and they took us around Paris. One of the instructors grew up in Paris, so we started at her old flat, and then we walked around the city, and she talked about all the different places. It's a great activity to do. So take advantage of technology and embark on these virtual tours of famous landmarks, museums, and cities. Lots of museums have virtual tours if you go to their website that you can take right then and there, but you can also harness Google Maps. So if you go to Google Maps and go to Street View, there's that little guy, he's called Pegman, and you can use him to guide students through the city. And as you're doing so, you can talk about the landmarks, about the places, about the streets that you're walking. You can use directions. I'm turning left here, I'm turning right here, I'm going straight ahead. Lots of different things to bring kids in so they actually feel like they're right in the place that you're investigating. I would start with capital cities, and then I would go with the next big cities in there in your culture. And then finally, I would end up with types of cities that are famous for specific culture, like Pamplona in Spain. It's not a really big city, but it's very famous for running of the bulls. So you can find those things so kids can get a whole variety of tours and places to investigate. Another idea is to have students research and present on different destinations and their cultural significance. So this is an old-fashioned thing. We've all done this. We may have done it when we were learning languages. So you assign kids or have them choose from a list of specific places, and then they're going to investigate, they're going to research it, and then they're going to present on that using like a Google slide deck, using multimedia, images, videos, and present in the target language all about the culture that they're learning from this particular place. And then lastly, you can plan a virtual trip where students role play as tourists and locals. This is a little bit different from what I first talked, where we're doing it together as a class. Here, it's kind of like a scavenger hunt that you're going to do. You're going to give kids a piece of paper with different tasks they need to complete in the target language. And in order to complete these tasks, they need to go on a virtual trip online through the city, through the culture, and to be able to find the answers to the questions, collect images, screenshots of what they're doing. And it's a really fun activity to kind of get the kids really immersed in the culture and in the destinations that they choose. It's a really fun activity. Here's another one of my favorites, language partners and pen pals. I don't know about you, but I remember we didn't do this in my French or my Spanish class, but in my German class, we did pen pals. We used to like pay $1 to get an address and a name, and then we wrote on these international envelopes that you just folded, and it already had the international postage on it. And then we would write our little letter, we would send it out, and a couple weeks later, we get a letter back. It was a really fun activity. But now we have the internet, so we have lots of different ways to take technology and make this process a lot more engaging and a lot quicker. So one of the ideas is to connect with native speakers through language exchange platforms or pen pal programs. So This is another great idea. Pair it with a sister school that you can find online, and then you can share your students with them. They can learn English from your students, and your students can learn the target language from them. It's a great activity. It's fun. It's engaging. They can do this on apps like FaceTime or WhatsApp and do it either textual or visual. They can do like video chats back and forth. They can do Zoom or any of those types of platforms. It can be synchronous or asynchronous, however it works. Sometimes with time changes, asynchronous works better, but they can engage in so many different ways. They can use text and type messages back and forth. They can also use video for the asynchronous, and they can also use live video for synchronous activities, a really fun activity. Another great idea is to encourage regular communication to practice language skills and learn about daily life. So, here in class, we want to practice, we want to model real communication in class. Have dialogues, have communication, have chats, have conversations with your students about everyday things. The target here is not to teach vocabulary. The target is not to explicitly teach grammar. The target here is just to communicate in the target language using everyday language. And when you use everyday language, it's really easy to incorporate high frequency vocabulary, because if it's high frequency, it's going to show up naturally, and kids can get the real flow, and they can increase their confidence and increase their comfort level because you're having these regular conversations in the target language, and it's a great practice for them. And lastly, you can organize video calls or in-person meetups for more immersive experience. I don't know if you've ever been to the National TPRS conference, but one of the fun activities we did in the evenings was to have the immersion dinners. And the rule was we could only speak the target language at these dinners. Now, I teach Spanish, but I also speak French and German. I really needed to practice my German oral skills. So I would go to the German dinners and we'd all practice just speaking in German for the whole evening. It's a really fun activity. Why can't you do this in the target language for your students? It doesn't have to be an after-school activity where you're taking kids out to dinner, but you could maybe open up your classroom during lunch and have an immersive lunch time for that. Or you can organize video calls. It can be maybe an interview with a local person who speaks the target language. A great resource for this is your parents of your native speakers. It's a great resource for that. Or you can even coordinate with your ESL teacher and find students who speak natively the language that you're teaching, and you can have either in-person meetups with that, or you can organize video calls that way. It's a great service. And another one, this is a paid service, but italki is another great idea where they can connect really inexpensively with native speakers. It's italki.com is the website, and it's a really great service for kids or you to even practice with real native speakers the language in real time. Here's a classic activity that I know we've all done in the past: cultural projects and presentations. So you can assign a project that explores various aspects of the target culture. It could be history, traditions, current events, whatever. And then kids will work on researching that information and presenting it back to the class. The way that I like to do this is to give a choice board. So I pick out all the topics that I want to be covered throughout the year, and then kids can choose one of those topics. Once the topic is chosen, it can't be picked by another student, so we're not getting a lot of repeat information. And then I space these out throughout the whole year. So we're not doing it like we're having Culture Week and we're all getting bombarded with the presentations all at once. I space them out over the year. This way kids can plan and figure out when it works best in their schedule. So again, I'll have dates that I want my kids to present on. Sometimes it'll be once a week, maybe once every other week. Then they choose the date that they want to present on. Again, once that date is taken, we're done with that date. So we're only doing one of them. And throughout the whole year, I should be able to get all of my students covered. A variation on this is to have students work in groups to create presentations, videos, or artwork showcasing their findings on the research topic. So here, instead of doing it individually, you're having students work together in groups collaboratively. And they're still going to create a presentation or a video or artwork that showcases their findings. I find that my kids really like doing the video aspect because it's a little bit more modern, and they don't have to do it live in front of everybody. So it's kind of fun for them. Lastly, invite native speakers or cultural experts to provide feedback and insights into the culture that you're studying. A great resource for this is your local restaurants or markets that target your target language culture. I don't know about you, but where I live, I have got 3 restaurants and 1 market that's a great resource for Hispanic culture. I've got 2 Peruvian restaurants, and they're very different from each other. And I also have a Mexican restaurant. So I can enlist people from there to bring and talk about the food, the culture, their country, the language. And then I've got a Mexican market and butcher right around the corner as well. So I can enlist people from there. It can be, via Zoom. They can come in and be speakers in your classroom, or even better, you can record them and make videos. And what's great about videos is that you can use them year after year after year. It's a great way to bring culture right into your classroom by incorporating local talent around. Okay, listen up, language teachers. If you're tired of being stuck in a rut and want to take your comprehensible input teaching to the next level, you need to check out our Beyond the Basics mini course. For just $97, you'll get access to 10 game-changing webinars that will blow your mind and transform your classroom. We're not talking about the same old basic strategies you've heard a million times before. This is the real deal, the cutting-edge techniques that will set you apart from the rest. If you're serious about making a difference in your students' lives and want to be the best dang teacher you can be, then you can't afford to miss this opportunity. We're going beyond the basics and diving deep into the world of comprehensible input, giving you the tools and the insights you need to create a truly immersive and effective learning experience. So what are you waiting for? Head over to mm.us/beyond right now and register for the Beyond Basics mini course. Your students will thank you, your colleagues will be jealous, and you'll be the rock star teacher you always knew you could be. Now, here are 3 strategies you can start using in your classroom today. First up, host a culture day where students bring in food, music, and other items related to the target culture. Encourage them to share stories and experiences and facilitate discussions around cultural similarities and differences. You can also introduce a culture corner in your classroom where you display articles, images, and videos related to the target culture. Rotate the content regularly and encourage your students to contribute their own findings. And lastly, you can assign a weekly culture challenge where students must complete a task or activity related to the target culture outside of class. This could include watching a movie, trying a new recipe, or attending a cultural event. Have them share their experiences with the class and reflect on what they learned. Remember, the key to successful cultural immersion is to make it fun, engaging, and relevant to your students' lives. Now, I want to hear from you. What's your favorite way to bring culture into your language classroom? Share your best tips and tricks and experiences in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation going. And if you're ready to keep learning and growing as a teacher, then I've got just the thing for you. YouTube has handpicked an amazing video just for you that will take your teaching skills to the next level. Trust me, you don't want to miss this one. So go ahead and click on that video and let's keep this language teaching revolution going. And as always, happy comprehensible input.